In less than a month from now, precisely on May 29, 2015, Nigeria's current president, Goodluck Jonathan, will cease to be president, having lost the presidential election to former head of state and military leader Muhammadu Buhari. But in these last few weeks, he has continued to preside. He has fired the Inspector General of Police, replacing him with an acting Inspector General. He has appointed former governor of Anambra State in the southeast region of Nigeria, Peter Obi, as the new chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission. He has also fired the boss of the NHIS, that's the National Health Insurance Scheme, and ordered the release of a report on an audit on Nigeria's National Petroleum Corporation. Well, hello and welcome. This is 60 Minutes with me, Angela Jitumobi. Thank you for joining me on the program today. And so Nigerians are divided about this spate of work being taken on by President Jonathan in the twilight days of his administration. Even though government is meant to be an ongoing venture, people are divided about whether in the last few weeks of his administration he should be working so hard or winding down and preparing to hand over to the new president of the country. And that's where my host today comes in. He will be hoping to clarify, amplify, or at least put in perspective a lot of these issues. We will be looking at the state of the nation today. So, join me after the break as I count down 60 minutes with the president of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, Femi Adesina. Welcome back. Welcome, Mr. Adesina. Thank you very much for coming back on the program.
Thank you.
I actually should have said, join me after the break, the newly re-elected president of the NG. Congratulations on your re-election.
Thank you.
You know, that went well, unopposed. So it means that the members of the guild seem to be happy with you.
That's what it means. Thank you.
Now, your annual biennial convention, biennial means it's held twice a year. Yes.
No. Biennial in this sense means once
every 2 years.
Once every 2
Ah,
years.
okay. Well, the biennial convention began on Friday, 24th of April. You were elected or re-elected on Saturday, the 25th. Returned unopposed. I can't help but say, was there any rigging, no zoning, no PVC problems?
No PVC problem, no card reader problem.
Everything went well. All right. And the construction of a secretariat, that has been on for a while with the guild. I know you've managed to raise about 200 million naira and for that in Abuja.
Yes.
What is the next stage? How far have you gone?
When we were campaigning for the first time, having a national secretariat for the guild, which is 53 years old this year,
Wow.
was one of our main promises. Because look at doctors, they have their national secretariat.
Yes.
Look at pharmacists, look at lawyers, look at all the other professionals.
Yes.
They have their national secretariat. So it was not proper that the Nigerian Guild of Editors didn't have one. So we made it something, a campaign issue 2 years ago. And so to fulfill that promise, sometime last year we held a fundraising dinner in Abuja, the Transcorp Hilton, which was very successful. A lot of governors came, people in the private sector came.
The fear of the editors is the beginning of wisdom, Mr. Adesina.
Not necessarily. I think goodwill also
Yes.
will matter apart from fear.
Yes.
If you didn't have goodwill, it may not also have been successful. Or they will come, they will pledge, and they will not redeem
it. Yes.
But they came pledged, and a lot of them, 90-95% redeemed. So we have that pool of funds. And the FCT minister also sent a rep to that event and pledged to give us a plot of land.
Ah, so you don't have to buy the land.
No, well, at least he promised to one.
Yes.
And some months after he fulfilled that pledge, we were given good land at a place called Kiami. Kiami is on the road to the airport in Abuja. But there was a snag. Infrastructure is not yet done in that area. The land itself is very good, plain land, but you needed infrastructure. Federal government awarded the contract. After one of the Federal Executive Council meetings, it was announced the infrastructure development Academy had been awarded to Julius Berger. That is more than 6 months. But no work has been done.
Right.
We have now discovered that there was no cash back into the contract. So we can begin to build.
You can't move.
We can't move unless government moves.
Yes.
And unless Julius Berger gets funding, it will also not move.
Yes.
Now what we now did, the last ESCO, the one that got dissolved on Saturday before the new election, now said, we have these funds lying idle in the bank. We had a purpose for raising it. Let's then look towards Lagos. Buy a property, maybe demolish and rebuild. Or if it's something good, we remodel to our taste. After doing that, we will still have some funds left. And then that's our allocation in Abuja. Whenever infrastructure is done, you can still use that. So that is where we are. I believe that getting that secretariat in Lagos is just a matter of weeks, not months. In a matter of weeks, we will be able to tell the world this is National Secretariat of the Nigerian Guild.
How long is your tenure? Does the board?
It's 2 years.
Okay.
I just finished the first 2 years. I've got re-elected for another 2 years, which is the last.
There's a limit on term.
It's maximum of 2 terms.
Okay. And at the convention you held recently, the Vice President-elect, Professor Shibajo, who represented the President-elect, said the media deserves commendation for facilitating a peaceful and credible poll. You know, I wanted us to look at it, the role of the media from another angle, which I call fueling illegalities. And I'll tell you what I mean. For instance, after the problem with the Nigerian Governors Forum and the emergence of Jonah Jang as the chairman of a faction of that forum, we found media, electronic and print, all addressing Jonah Jang as the chairman of the Governors Forum. If the media knows that to all intents and purposes, 16 can never be greater than 19, were we not helping the cause of the illegality by continuing to recognize and pronounce Jonah Jang as a legitimate chairman of the Governors Forum?
Yes, I wouldn't quite agree with your choice of word. You said all the media.
Yes.
No, I don't think it was all the media. For instance, the medium where I work, we will not call Jonah Jang the president of the Governors Forum.
How would you call him?
We call him the factional. The factional. They call them chairman, factional chairman of the Governors Forum. That's right. Okay. And if we will call Amechi, we will call him factional chairman, because
you want to be neutral.
Yes, and truly after the election, that body became factionalized.
Right.
So 16 can never be greater than 19. We also know that it was a controversial issue.
Yes.
So if we will refer to Amechi, we'll call him factional chairman. If we refer to Jang, we'll call him factional chairman.
Yeah.
If any medium calls any of them outright as chairman,
yes,
maybe it's on the ownership. The ownership of that medium is determining that.
Right.
You know, there are tendencies in the media to depending on ownership, depending on proprietorial interest.
Yes.
If your ownership is political and it has told you lean towards this side,
so these things happen, you know, in spite of what we all think. But did you think the media facilitated a peaceful and credible poll?
Yes, the poll was better than the ones we have had. Maybe not June 12, 1993. That was perhaps the most peaceful we've had.
Yes.
In this election, there were still skirmishes. Before election itself, I think National Human Rights Commission came out to say 56 people lives had been lost before the election. And you know how many that still died during the election and possibly after.
Yes.
So we can't say it was 100% peaceful, but then it went better than we thought.
Yes.
It went better than we feared. You know that actually before the election, a lot of people had relocated.
Yes.
Either from one part of the country to the other, and those who could afford it had even gone out of the country. The fact that the election came, went, and we are still seated here.
Yes.
Because we can sit here because there's peace in the country. If we were running for shelter or running for their lives, we wouldn't be here. So I think it's something to really, really applaud and give glory to God for.
Yes.
The media played its role in achieving that, quite right. You will see that awareness towards the election was very high, very, very high. It couldn't have been done without the media.
Yes.
Awareness was very, very high. And voter education, the media contributed greatly to it, sensitizing the voters, everything, the media did well.
Yes.
Of course, there was a downside also. Some people talked about hate campaign.
Yes.
What vehicle did they use?
They used the media.
They used the media.
Yes.
So that was the downside of that campaign.
Yes. And what does the guild do with things like that? When you have hate campaign, do you have any role to play? You know that the NBC, for instance, will sanction TV stations who carry those sort of hate material. What does the guild do in such an event?
The guild is not regulatory.
Right.
It's not regulatory. We are just an association of editors.
Right.
The best we can do is some peer review. If we think we have seen something not properly done by one of our colleagues, we can call and say, look at this again.
Right.
Yes, can't it be done this way, that way? But at the end of the day, we don't have authority to censure. At best, we can say, for unprofessional conduct, maybe stay aside from the guild for a while.
Yes.
But we will not be able to do more than that. There are other regulatory authorities which are vested with such powers. For instance, I think there were some excesses, quite a lot of excesses in the print, but the ones in the broadcast were worse. Particularly, we know, we wouldn't mention names, but we know 2 stations that really, really, really thrived.
Went all out.
All out on that hate campaign. And I think the NBC should have intervened, but I also understand why the NBC couldn't intervene.
Why couldn't they intervene?
Because they are answerable to government. They are answerable to government. Whether we like it or not, government appointed the DG.
Second guessing, we can't throw that away. We can't.
Okay. It will have to take a very strong and independent-minded and possibly suicidal DG to intervene at that time. He will be intervening at the risk of his job and possibly his life.
These are very serious issues. So who did you vote for in the presidential election?
Well, for years, decades, even so to speak, I had been a Muhammadu Buhari man, and I never hid it.
Yes.
I never hid it.
Why did you vote for him?
Because when he was military head of state, I was a university student. I knew the state of the country before he came in. I knew how he met the country, and I saw an effort to straighten the country.
Yes.
But that effort was truncated. He was not allowed to finish that job. When he joined the political race in 2003, I had always supported him since then.
Are you serious?
Because I believe that the work he couldn't finish as military head of state, he now could have an opportunity to do it. The circumstances will be different, but the personality remains the same. Firm, strict, accountable.
Yes.
And we needed such person in the country.
Were you expecting him to win this one? And I'm assuming you voted for him in 2011, but this particular one.
In 2011, I supported him, but in my writing, I always expressed that reservation, saying unless there was a coalition between the then CPC and the ACN, victory will be difficult. I kept harping on it. You needed a coalition. Nigeria is structured in a way that the person that builds the bigger coalition will always win the presidency.
Right.
If you don't build a coalition big enough, you wouldn't win it. Even constitutional provisions require you to win at least 24 states.
Yes, so which means you need to be big.
Oh, you need to be big. That's why when that alliance between CPC, the old CPC, ANPP, a part of APGA, and the old ACN came, I had always maintained that the election could go anywhere. PDP was big, very big. To upstage PDP, you needed an equally big platform.
Yes.
And when the APC came, I said, yes, we were in for an election like we had never had before in the country. I was even surprised how it turned out, how APC swept really. Virtually with their broom, they swept the country clean. I thought it was going to be neck and neck.
Yes, too close to call.
Too close to call,
yes,
as they would say. But then I was amazed at how it ended.
What do you think this defeat means for the People's Democratic Party? People are saying it is the end of the PDP. Do you agree?
It depends on people in the party. It may either be the end or they could make it the beginning. If they choose to remain down,
yes,
it's the end. But if they get up, dust their bodies,
yes,
and then replan and re-strategize, it could be the beginning.
Would the current president have a role to play? I'm looking at it because since he's lost that election, in my opinion, it looks like he's taking a step back from party activities. And I think that if the PDP is going to build itself up, it needs him at the helm, you know, to lead the party again to heights.
He will always be relevant in PDP and in the rebuilding of the party.
Yes.
But whether he could be the fulcrum of that rebuilding is doubtful. You know, there's a saying that the king under whom a dynasty fell,
yes,
is hardly talked of with relish. So a dynasty fell under him.
Yes.
And even within that party, a lot of people will have misgivings about him and his role.
You think they're bitter that it was during his time the party was
Bitterness
dissipated?
may not be the right word, but they are sorry. They are sorry. I've talked to some PDP chiefs who felt, yes, PDP was done in by the fact that there was not enough internal democracy. For instance, see the way APC held their presidential primary.
Yes.
Clean, transparent. And see how PDP did its own. They didn't even allow
people to buy forms.
They couldn't even allow people to buy forms. The electorate saw it. And from that point, they began to make up their minds who to vote for.
Join us again after the break.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
Angela, that's a great question.
Great question, Angela. Angela, that is a very great question. That's a great question.
Okay, that's a great question.
Yeah, very good question.
That's a good question.
This is an interesting question you put.
60 Minutes with Angela. Again, answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajitumobi. On my hot seat today, the newly re-elected president of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, Femi Adesina. Now, I was of the opinion that President Jonathan shouldn't have contested in 2015.
That is my opinion. I'm saying it on air now,
yes,
but I had always refrained from saying it.
Yes.
But that is my private opinion. He should not have run in 2015 for many reasons.
Yes.
One, he came in 2011 by, I use this word carefully, by subverting
yes,
the power rotation arrangement of his own party. He came, but people say, what is 4 years in the life of a country? Let's
yes,
allow him. So he went. And he had used his own mouth to say it, that he was going to run one time.
but he kept denying that.
But there are
promise.
clips. There are clips that have been played back. There was one from Addis Ababa.
Yes, Ethiopia.
Ethiopia. So there are clips that have been played back. There was a statement, even by his spokesman, released then saying he was going to be a one-time president. There are people he pledged to. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo is one of them. So why did he renege? I think one very important thing about leadership is trust. You should be able to trust the person that leads you. Anything bearing affinity to being untrustworthy is not good. It's not good for a leader. So running 2015 election ab initio was an error. He would have exited better. History will have positioned him better if he didn't run for that election. But then, let's also understand, his own people from the South,
yes,
urged him to run. He was going to be an enemy of his own people if he didn't run. From that perspective, we also understand why he did. But then he should not have denied that he promised to do one time. He did promise.
Is Goodluck Jonathan your hero, like many people have said, for conceding defeat even before the full collation was achieved?
No, it would be hypocritical of me to come to say now that Goodluck Jonathan is my hero. He had never been. He had never been, and he is still not. I have nothing against him personally, but I hold strong opinions about his role in the governance in Nigeria.
What are those opinions?
My opinion originally was that he should have respected the power rotation agreement of his party.
Did he know about it?
Oh, not just know about it, he was a signatory to it. There was a document circulating there. I think on that document he is either signatory 33 or 35.
Right.
When the PDP was fashioning his power rotation agreement, all the governors signed. He was deputy governor in Bayelsa then, but I think his governor, DSP Alamesia,
Yes.
was not
Around, yes.
So he represented, and he signed that power rotation agreement, which says that power will rotate between the north and the south.
Was it not an excuse, though, that since Yaradua died, by no fault of anyone,
Yeah.
you know, and he happened to be the vice president, the constitution allowed that natural transition, seamless transition.
Yeah.
Should he be punished for taking advantage of that?
No, the constitution does allow. And the decision was his own whether to run or not to run. But my reservation was that he was trying to repudiate the power rotation agreement, which he was a signatory to.
Yes.
He should not have done that. It would have been better, more honorable, more decent to say, yes,
There is this agreement,
there is this agreement,
but these are the circumstances. Yes.
Exactly, these are the circumstances.
Yes.
And then, what is 4 years in the life of a country? He would have been allowed to do that 4 years. But then, you came in, you did 4 years, and then you want to do another 4 years, which will have amounted to 10 years. So,
I don't think the constitution anticipated
the
anyone doing
Constitution
10 years.
Did not. And it was a decision he should have made, a personal decision he should have made. He's an enlightened person, the first PhD holder to be president of Nigeria. He should have made a better decision than he did. It's a good thing that he considered defeat. It's the decent thing to do. But then, is it a heroic act? No, I wouldn't say so. Because before the election, there was a pact that both candidates signed, that whoever lost will accept the result.
Yes.
And it's in his own enlightened self-interest to even concede defeat. Because where will the country have headed? There will have been uproar, there will have been killings, there will have been violence all over.
Mr. Adesina, some people say if the tables had been turned, Buhari wouldn't have conceded defeat.
No, with that pact, what does Buhari have going for him? Integrity, honor. Having signed that pact, if the election was free and fair, I'm sure he would have accepted it. And he said it severally. I remember that when the hate campaign was at its peak, one of his spokesmen came out to say that Buhari may be forced to renege on the peace pact he had signed. But then the campaign office came out
the following day
to say he will never. So whichever way it went, as long as it was free and fair, he was going to accept it. Don't forget that the panel set up in 2011 to probe the violence that attended the release of the result. The Sheikh Lemo panel said that violence broke because the PDP mismanaged its own power rotation agreement. Let's not forget that.
Yes.
So it was not simply, Buhari didn't instigate it. Rather, what people said was that he didn't call people
to come back.
Yes. So it was a mismanagement of the power rotation.
Couldn't it have been heroic, especially considering that event of God's Day Orubebe at the event where the INEC chairman was releasing results?
Yes.
People thought, you know, that action of Orubebe was to kickstart something else.
Yeah.
Perhaps if the president hadn't conceded, where would we have been?
Where would we have been? It's a good question. But then, like I said, it was enlightened self-interest. The president will consider himself. The question is, where would he have ended? Where would he have ended?
He, the president.
He, the president. Today, he's exiting honorably. In fact, some people are nominating him for Nobel Peace Award. Some are saying more
UN Prize
and all that. If he didn't concede at that point, and there was violence, where would he have ended? At the International Criminal Court. Because the country will have been burning, a lot of lives will have been lost, and it will be on record that he had signed a pact that he was going to accept the result.
Yes.
So The Cote d'Ivoire scenario will have unfolded in Nigeria, and where is Gbagbo today? He's answering charges. Where is his wife today? The wife has even been jailed for 20 years.
Yes.
So I think it's in the president's interest that he accepted defeat when he did. He did a good thing. Whether it's heroic, it's questionable.
It's a topic for another day.
Topic for another day.
All right. And then looking at setting the agenda now for the incoming administration of Buhari, I was looking at interventionist programs in the Niger Delta. One of the fears expressed to me by people in that region is that the coming of Buhari will end any interventionist programs that they are enjoying, such as the presidential amnesty program. Do you think, as a way of assuaging the feelings of the people of that area, whose son has lost his re-election bid, you think the presidential amnesty program should be maintained?
It depends on what that program was initially. Was it just a token to placate the Niger Delta, or was it a well-conceived program to bring change to the Niger Delta? And 4 years after that program, there must be an assessment, there must be an appraisal. What impact has it had on the Niger Delta?
Yes.
If it has not had any impact on the Niger Delta itself, just having impact on the lives of some people in the Niger Delta,
selected few,
then it needs to be readdressed. But I will always be for anything that will bring development to any part of the country. It should be sustained, it should be continued.
Right.
It may be modified, but then it should not just be cancelled because the son of the Niger Delta is not in power again. No, that should not happen. Every part of the country that needs development must be attended to.
And as we say farewell to Goodluck Jonathan, what will be your parting words to him?
Yes, I would wish him all the best. He's just 56, 7, about 57. He still has his life ahead of him. He has a PhD. He will be in demand all over the world to speak, to share experience and all that.
Yes.
That he could have lost if he didn't do what he did, conceding defeat when it became glaring that he had lost.
Yes.
So I wish him all the very best. He would always be a voice in this country. His tenure will come up for appraisal. It will come up for scrutiny. History will decide whether he did well or not. But then he will always be a former president of this country who conceded defeat at an election he lost. And the question is, when you lose an election, what's the next thing you go home? So as it goes on, we wish him all the best.
All the best. Right? All right, so let's come to the other elections now. We've talked about the presidential election, state by state. And I want to start with Lagos State because that is where you work as well. The 2015 election in Lagos State, in my opinion, brought to the fore this question of indigenship again, and the myth often told about Lagos being no man's land. What is your opinion on all that played out in Lagos State?
Yeah, when you say Lagos is no man's land, what exactly are you saying? It's like saying Mongo Park came to discover River Niger.
Like it wasn't there before.
Like it wasn't there before. All those people living around the Niger, didn't they know that the river was there? So how can you say Mongo Park discovered River Niger? So I think it's an effort to rewrite history, which is not quite good. Lagos had always been there. There are people who are sons of the soil. But because it has become a melting pot, a cosmopolitan city, a centripetal city, so to speak, people come from all parts of the country and even beyond to live in Lagos.
Yes.
I have lived in Lagos for 30 unbroken years. I'll call myself a Lagosian, but I'm not an
Lagosian.
I'm not more so to speak.
Yes.
I'm still from Osun State.
Yes.
But I'm a Lagosian because I live in Lagos.
Shouldn't you be allowed to contest elections?
Ideally, I should. But then it happened in this last election. I think 6 House of Rep seats were won by non-indigens. 2 of them Igbos, 4 of them from other
there's a Deltan there too.
Yes, there's a Deltan. So it shows that, don't forget that Zeke almost won an election in this Lagos before. In the 1950s, Zeke was coasting home to victory. it was in the last minutes that some things were done, and then he couldn't win.
Yes.
So that would have been very good for our country, very good for our democracy. Anybody can win.
You say that would have been very good.
Yeah.
You are not looking at the way it has played out lower down. Now, there's a kind of tension between the Lagosians, the real Lagosians, and the non-indigens. Don't you think we're going to see things play out in the next couple of months? Yoruba landlords versus non-indigen tenants, now looking at them and saying, visitors who want to become owners of our property.
It would then depend a lot on the new governor, Akinwumi Ambode, and the APC. They may either comport themselves in a way that shows that they want to show the Igbos that they are strangers, they are settlers in Lagos, or they are part of the state.
Yes.
I think with what happened during the election, what the Oba of Lagos reportedly said, the tension and animosity it
Generated, yes.
and how the election eventually ended, I think let's just allow bygones to be bygones.
What is your expectation then from the incoming administration of Akinwumi Ambode?
Yes, when I think of Ambode, a scripture comes to my mind which talks about not removing the ancient landmarks. The Bible says, don't remove the ancient landmarks. In other words, you have a heritage, protect it.
Yes.
That is Ambode. He is assuming a heritage that had been built in the past 15 years. Bola Tinubu started it, Raji Fashola built on it and furthered it, continued. Then the way it is now on Ambode, he must ensure that he continues to build on that landmark and build very well on it. He should be careful what he uses to build. If you use hay or wood or stubble to build, it can burn.
Yes.
But if you use precious stones, it will stand. So he must be careful how he builds on the foundation that has been laid for him.
Did you want change in Lagos?
No, I supported Ambode.
Why?
Yeah, because of what we have seen happening in Lagos.
Yes.
And it was better for Lagos to have continuity. If change had come, despite the fact that Agbaje is a very good candidate. You know one thing, in 2007,
Yes.
because I didn't know Raji Fashola before then, I didn't know what he could do. Agbaje was my candidate.
Wow.
Agbaje was my candidate. I just loved him.
Yes.
I just loved his campaign.
Yes.
And I know that a number of professionals
were around him.
Yeah, were around him.
Yes.
He was my candidate. He didn't win the election. Fashola came and surprised everybody. And then Fashola won my admiration.
Yes.
So in this last campaign, you permit me my prejudice.
Yes.
I don't like the PDP.
Okay, join us again after the break. So what is 60 Minutes with Angela all about? It's not an interview. I like to think it's a conversation between two people making the news, people who are in the news, and those who become the news. And the whole idea is to inform, to educate, or to clarify, as the case may be. It is an art getting people to answer the questions that everyone is thinking in their minds. And that's what we try to do on 60 Minutes with Angela. I ask all the questions that everyone's thinking about and no one wants to voice. All the questions you always wanted to ask. You get those answers on 60 Minutes with Angela every week on this station. 60 Minutes with Angela, getting answers to every question you always wanted to ask. Welcome back. My concluding moments now with Femi Adesina. Let's talk about Ekiti State. After the Supreme Court affirmed that Governor Fayoshe's 2006 impeachment was illegal, I thought that would douse the situation in Ekiti State. But it doesn't look like anything is dousing. And it's looking like, to a lot of people, he just may go down in history as the first governor to be impeached twice. Do you think this second impeachment will happen?
If it happens, it will be very unfortunate. Because you don't get better opportunities than Fayoshe has had. You get removed from office,
And you get a chance to come
to
back.
come back on the same date. You know, he got removed October 16, 2006.
Yes.
He came back to power October 16, 2014. What other evidence do you need to show that God is with you? I think God brought Fayose back. If he gets impeached, it will be very sorry. And I think it would be avoidable. When he got back to power, yes, APC had majority in that house. Should have tried to accommodate them better.
Yes.
They should have tried rather than antagonize them. Suddenly, 7 lawmakers
It's more than
ousted,
19.
19.
Yes.
No, that cannot be right. And 7 lawmakers approved his budget. 7 lawmakers have been doing things.
They're arguing that the 7 is a quorum because the other 19 are not in the state.
When they wanted to come back to the state, they were not even allowed to come in.
Do you think things will change as we get nearer May 29 and President Jonathan leaves? You think Fayose will be perhaps more exposed?
Let me say this. I like Governor Fayose. He's a thoroughbred grassroots politician.
Yes, he is.
You needed to see him among his people.
I interviewed him for that election, and I can tell you, he's something, an enigma.
Yeah, I like him. But I think his politics, he needs to look at it. But for instance, see the way he went all out for Jonathan. You were ready to sink with the man. And now that the man is out, you could sink.
Yes.
And you will be blamed. I think he should just have moderated it better. Let's see, it's democracy.
Yes.
We see how it plays out. But it will be quite sorry if he gets impeached the second time.
All right. And in Rivers State, what do you make of that? People are talking about the discrepancies in the voting figures there. You think the election there was free and fair?
Was there election at all in Rivers? I'm not INEC. INEC has made a pronouncement. In democracy, we accept it. But if you ask for my opinion, I think there was no voting in Rivers. We had reporters there. I've read all the reports. The consensus is that there really was no voting in Rivers. The results were just written. But we leave the courts to
Is that why we saw the Rivers State wreck on television that day with Jega? Very confused, you know, and pretending not to see what he wanted to read?
Yeah. The man was actually in a fluster. So was he conscious? We don't know. And look at the figures.
Yes.
Look at the turnout percentage in that election. In most places, even in the southeast, 35, 40, 50%. And then suddenly for a state to come with a figure of 95% turnout.
Yes.
It was suspicious. It was suspicious. They will also point to Kano, saying Kano came, I think, 2.9.
Yeah, 1.9. Yes.
1.9. So, but that of Rivers, they didn't allow voting to take place. At least Kano voted. The Rivers didn't allow voting to take place.
Why do you think they didn't allow it?
Because it became a do or die. We know the influence of the wife of the president. She comes from the state.
Yes.
Actually, I think the movement that has culminated in change in Nigeria started from Rivers. It was that day when she had a face-off with Governor Amechi.
When she took the microphone,
listen to me.
Yes.
That was the seed that germinated into change in the country today. Because that was when the issues with Amechi began, culminating eventually in 5 governors leaving the PDP one day, led by Amechi.
Yes.
And so I think with the benefit of hindsight, that was when the change began to happen.
And in Taraba State, many people were hopeful for a first female governor, Senator Aisha Al-Hassan.
Yes.
Do you think that election too went well?
Well, the woman has said she will go to tribunal. We'll allow the tribunal to determine. But let's not forget the configuration of Taraba.
Yes.
It's more of a Christian state than Muslim.
Yes.
And they had always voted Christian governors. I think if Al-Hassan maybe had been a Christian, she could have won. But there was a lot of sentiment for her. At least
I thought the women would drive votes for her.
Yes, but don't forget that religion is very strong in politics in Nigeria. Taraba had always had Christian governors.
Yes.
Because the Christian population is higher. But I didn't mind having Al Hassan as governor, I would have loved it. The first woman to have been elected in a straight election.
And from the north, for
And
that
then
matter.
from the north.
Yes.
I think she performed better than I thought she would.
Her figures were 275,984 votes. Darius Ishaku of the PDP had 369,318 votes.
Yeah.
So she didn't do too badly.
She didn't do too badly. But we since she says she's going to court, we allow the courts to determine who actually won.
I want us to just briefly go back to Rivers State.
Yeah.
You talked about how that incident with the First Lady and Amechi, sparked off that change movement in Rivers. Do you think it was a mistake for the PDP to let Governor Amechi and those 5 governors leave the party?
It was a big, not just big, a monumental mistake. It is often said that the greatest resource an organization has is the human resource. Now, when you allow 5 governors to go out of your party in one day, you are losing your human resource. Not just go out, go to join the main opposition party. You are asking to be defeated at the election. So, the PDP made a big mistake in allowing those 5 governors to go. They were even going to be 7.
Yes.
The other 2 that didn't go, see how they were decimated in their states.
Niger, yes.
Yes, Niger and Jigawa.
Yes.
It showed that the governors remained in PDP, but there are people who are not PDP again. There are people who left, and the results showed it.
Yes.
PDP was a little bit on the arrogant side, and they have paid heavily for it. Remember, this was a party that had threatened to rule us for 60 years. And 60 became 16.
I can't let you go without talking about your state, Osun State. The school feeding program, the media had been awash with stories about stopping the school feeding program so that salaries could be paid. The state government has denied that. But of course, that brought to the fore the issue about challenges with paying salaries. For most of the states in the last 18 months, not many people are talking about that. What do you think is happening? People were saying the federal government was withholding money for elections and stuff like that. How can we get around this salary thing we've been encountering?
Yes, it's also a fact that in the past 5, 6, 7 months, the federal government had not been giving states their due. And there are some states that their IGR is not like that of Lagos or some other states, that they could survive without handout from the federal government. There are states that depend wholly
on that handout. Yes.
So they couldn't pay salaries. Look at Benue. Benue was not a state that you would think APC will win. Plateau was not a state that you think APC will win.
So this salary thing worked against them.
Yes, those states are owing civil servants, owing teachers, and they revolted against the order. Their thinking was, how could you owe us 5, 6 months salaries and you want to impose your successor on us? So they revolted.
Yes.
And what caused all that? The price of oil fell. From the last quarter of last year, it began to fall considerably till from 110, it fell to about 50, got to 46 at a time. When a country becomes improvident, you don't save for the rainy day. That's what happens to you. They had a sovereign wealth fund, but some people said they had dipped hands into it. They dipped hand in almost everything to fund a campaign, which is not proper. There was a report recently that the president was asking for an account for 2 trillion.
Yes.
The government denied it, but we knew that a lot of money went into that election, more than the electoral law allows.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and that money, the states paid for it because a number of them have not been able to pay salaries, Osun inclusive. And that was what brought up that issue of discontinuing the feeding program. But the state has clarified the situation.
Do you think then that the incoming administration of Buhari is going to meet some things in there when they get there?
I pity the man.
After finally winning the election.
After finally winning, he's going to meet a depleted treasury. Not just depleted, there will be plenty bills to pay, plenty debts to offset, both nationally and internationally. Don't forget that Obasanjo paid up Nigerians, paid off all our debts. The debts have piled up again. So, I pity that incoming administration. But the good side is that we know the man for being thrifty, for being prudent, for being accountable.
At least we know he's not going to buy private jet and
No.
Ferrari and
And Lamborghini.
and Lamborghinis and all that. Well, on a final note, I wanted your opinion on someone proposing banning governors from going to the Senate, especially after a governor has done 8 years as governor. He goes to the Senate having no term limits whatsoever. So in a state where more people can come forward to participate politically, you have one man who sits as governor for 8 years, and then he's in the Senate for 8, 12, 16 years. Should that be looked at from the point of the law, or we should leave it open?
It will be patently undemocratic. In a democracy, you don't ban anybody from anything. Rather, allow the people to ban such people with their PVCs. As long as they keep winning at the elections, they have a right to be there. In the US, you have senators who have been there for over 50 years. They have been in the Senate. As long as their constituents continue to return them, they have a right to be there. I think it will be undemocratic to ask governors who have done 2 terms not to go to the Senate. They have every right to aspire. But if the people don't want them, please let the people show them the red card and not vote them in.
And your word on the role of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the former governor of Lagos State. I mean, people say love him or hate him. You have to bow to his political sagacity.
I think I would say he's my man of the year. The year is just 4 months old.
Into the year.
Into the year, but he's my man of the year. The change that has come on the political scene would not have come with Asiwaju Tinubu. We must give it to him. Like you said, whether you are a Tinubu man or you are not a Tinubu man, you cannot discountenance the role he has played.
And the choices he has made.
And the choices he has made. He's been known to make good choices. He knows good materials. For instance, if he didn't back Buhari, Buhari may not have got the presidential ticket. But he saw something in the man. He knows that this man has massive following, particularly in the north. And if he throws his weight in the southwest behind him, then the presidency is won.
I thought forcing Nigerians to make a choice between a Christian southerner and a Muslim northerner was very stark. And I wondered, why was the APC going for a complete opposite of the PDP's candidate? But it seems to have worked out well.
It has worked out, and you have to be alive to those sensibilities in the country. I hope we'll get to a time when it will not matter again. But for now, it does matter. It does matter.
Well, thank you, Mr. Adesina, for coming on the program again, and congratulations on your re-election.
Thank you.
As the president of the Guild of Editors. Congratulations also to all the new executive members. Some returned unopposed. Garbadin Mohammed, that's the deputy president. Sulaiman Gaya, the vice president North. Fred Fabo, vice president East. Steve Ayorinde, vice president West. Mary Atolagbe, assistant general secretary. Victoria Ibanga, the national secretary, and that was the post contested. Ogbang Akwaji, the treasurer. And Funke Egbemode, the social and publicity secretary. Congratulations to you all, and we wish you all the best for the next 2 years.
Thank you. Thank you. I call you the angel of the tube. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's it for this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajitumobi.